Culture, your Mosby. On this show, we take pieces of pop culture that were important to us in a given year.
Oh,
We then
push.
discuss memories and dig into those
Push
movies,
it good.
albums, shows, and more. I'm Brad.
I'm Pete.
And I'm Gif.
Oh my
That was a
God,
new
Gifford.
beginning
I
there.
almost killed you right then. You do not even realize.
Well done, Pete. Thanks, Eddie.
It's just setting
All
it up,
right.
setting the table.
You
Hi,
guys done now?
everybody.
So we're back with our second to the last episode of 2005. We're going to have a bonus one next week because how many Mondays are in August?
5 this
5.
year.
This year, 5. Is that every year?
No.
No.
Come on.
Nope.
So
Because
next
it's a
week we're
leap
going to
year.
hopefully give back by doing a little listener's choice. But tonight we have Gifford's choice,
Yes.
the one we haven't done yet.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been anxiously awaiting through vacations and traveling. And when are we going to record this thing? And here we go.
Here we go. It's
Take it away.
All ready to go. So tonight we are going to
Take it
be
away,
covering.
toys.
Take it away, toys.
We will be covering a movie that came out on June 10th of 2005, a little movie known as Mr. and Mrs. Smith. So
Yes.
this one, of course, stars Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie. A wonderful,
Fairly attractive people.
very
Yes.
attractive,
I
very
said
attractive
fairly
folks.
attractive.
Not that I rate dudes.
No? Okay. It's okay
But
if
they're
you
an
do.
attractive couple together.
No judgments. So yeah, basically the whole premise of this movie is you've got a married couple, and they, unbeknownst to each other, are assassins in competing companies, basically. And they are bored in their marriage, and they go through a lot of the same trials and tribulations as, any other couple might, but with a little bit of action involved on the side. So
Why did you
just
pick this movie, Gif?
I love this movie. Every time I see it on television, I will, either record it and watch it again later, or just sit down and watch it. I think it's smart. I think it's funny. The two characters, the two lead actors, are oozing with charisma. I just love everything that, or most stuff that they're in. So, and then of course you've got Vince Vaughn as Eddie, who I love in everything that he's been in. So, it's just a really fun movie. Good action and some good laughs. What did you guys think?
I do remember seeing this movie in the theater. I don't have many memories of it other than that I know that my wife and I went to see it. And, we thought it was going to be good. And I know I liked it. That's about the only memory I have. I liked it. I was excited to kind of watch it again because I did not really remember much. I mean, I know like the plot and everything, but I didn't remember anything specific about it. I didn't even remember Vince Vaughn was in it at first, so that was nice. And I mentioned a couple weeks ago, I didn't remember that it was directed by Doug Liman, the director of Swingers. So then I thought, well, yeah, this is probably a pretty good movie. So let's watch it again.
Mm-hmm.
So,
like Brad, I remember watching it in the theaters or early on when it first came out. I don't think I watched it very much since then, although we do own the DVD for it because my wife absolutely loves this movie. So I was able to watch it on DVD.
Wow.
Gifford, you were concerned about that you couldn't find it on streaming. But the fact that we owned it, we got there, but I didn't even have to pay for it because we already have it. In fact, it's also one of my daughter's favorite movies as well because, as everybody knows, we go on long road trips often.
Your daughter watched this movie?
Oh yeah, she loves this movie.
Great movie.
Interesting.
Well,
pretty violent.
And the two will watch it in the car on our long road trips. So we have a little portable DVD player, and they watch it together. And they've watched it, I think, a few times together that way. So, but usually I'm the one that's driving on these long road trips, so I didn't get a chance to watch it. But I watched it when we got home. So I love the movie. It's a pretty original plot. The only other movie that I can recall that I would compare it to is True Lies. It's
Yes.
very similar in a lot of ways to True Lies, whereas the difference in True Lies is that they're not both assassins or spies or whatever.
Hmm.
Schwarzenegger, the husband, is, but Jamie Lee Curtis is not, and she doesn't. What makes that movie funny is that she gets kind of sucked into the game
Yep.
and she doesn't know what she's doing, and so that's where kind of the comedy is there. um, but those two movies are pretty similar. And this one, they're both, as you said, government assassins, or not, assassins or whatever.
Yep.
And they both know what they're doing, which adds a different layer than True Lies. But both are very similar in that they are both just outrageous in terms of the action
Yes.
sequences. You cannot take this movie seriously. You can't watch it and
Outrageous is a
say,
good
"Oh
word.
my God, that would never happen." Right? Just
Right.
have fun with it and shut up. Right?
Hmm.
So when you let that go, it's a lot of fun. There's comedy, there's action, there's a love story in there between the two.
Hmm.
And so it just kind of has a little bit of everything, and it's a really fun movie.
Yes. Well said, Pete.
Thank you. I'm done.
So
And that wraps up this episode. We'll see you next
See
week.
ya.
we'll see you guys next
It's
week.
like George
Don't forget
Costanza.
to check out
I'm
our
out of here.
Buy Me a Coffee page and enjoy. Let's hear some Preacher O. Um, so we'll just run through the movie kind of quick here, hopefully. I do have copious notes, but hopefully we can get through it rather quickly. So basically, the movie starts out with the two in a marriage counselor's office. So right off the bat, you're understanding that here's a married couple and they're having some issues and they're trying to get things fixed.
I wrote down that they're very cute though here. It's the way
Mhm.
it's a cute scene to start it off.
Yes. Yes. The one thing I didn't understand is how you couldn't answer how much sex you have. Like the confusion that the both of them had with the question from the therapist is how often do you have sex?
Well, I
And
think
they
it's because
Right.
they don't have it
Well,
and they were like
right.
and
embarrassed
they
and
were
like
really
upset about it
yes,
and
Yeah. But again,
they
that
were
adds to the
apprehensive
awkwardness.
about it.
look at us
They're
two. How are
apprehensive
two
about
people that look like us not doing it?
it.
Exactly.
It's embarrassing.
So we head right into a flashback of how they met. This is 5 or 6 years ago, back in Bogota, Colombia. They're both there on a job, um, and they end up hooking up to throw the authorities off their trail because they were looking for a single assassin.
Hold
So
on one second.
yeah,
You kind of said it as if you were the one saying it, but really that's kind of an important point where you said 5 or 6 years
yes,
ago. That they kind of they argued about that, and
yes,
that's kind of how loveless their marriage is that they don't even agree on how long they've been married.
right. That's
So
true.
so
Well, I
I
know
just
that's
wanted to
not a
bring
great.
that up because you
She
said it, and
she
we didn't.
knows how long it's been, and he doesn't, and so that's just another point of contention.
Exactly.
If you believe,
Exactly.
I mean,
Well,
she's
we
not
don't know
confused
who's
by it.
right. I
I
mean,
think you tend to
usually,
assume she's right.
Yeah, I think you assume.
Based on
yeah,
everything you
yeah,
see in this movie, she's usually the one that's correct in most situations, whereas he's kind of a fly by the seat of your pants kind of guy, and
sure.
not real
I
big
know,
on
but
details.
it's never really confirmed.
No,
Other than that, other than your assumptions, and then even in the timeline, when it cuts to the scene, it says 5 or 6 years earlier,
right?
which is kind of funny.
Exactly. So they have a quick romance. There's a very hot scene where they're having some drinks out in the rain, doing a little dancing, and I am all for her attire in that scene. I will leave it at that unless you guys have more to say. No? Good. All right.
Our wives are going to be listening, so I don't want to say too much about what I thought of her. So we'll leave it at that.
All right.
I probably won't be listening.
Mine will be listening.
Brad
She
can say
listens to
whatever he
every
wants.
episode.
No, but I'm not going to objectify women or sit here and act that way like you guys. So
Okay.
We'll
Good.
talk.
We've got,
Hey,
we've
I
got
know
one
what
decent
like me.
person.
I never said anything at all.
I'm a straight
Totally
shooter.
innocent.
So, Whirlwind Romance, they come back to New York after the Bogota trip and they are going to get married right away. move in together and start this life together. And there's a scene where they're each talking to a close friend and explaining that, well, each one of their covers, of course, they told the other one. So John is in construction. He travels a lot.
Is
That's
this
his
the scene talking to their friend where he's boxing and
where he's
she's
boxing.
climbing the face of a straight up mountain?
Yes.
So
yes.
that's how they're
Yes.
having their normal conversations.
Yeah, their normal conversations are he's getting his butt kicked in training in like MMA, so he knows how to fight, and she's climbing, yeah, like Brad said, the a sheer cliff. And her cover is that she is a computer software person, and she gets called out at all hours to fix issues for large companies. So that's how they have their cover set up, where they can leave at any time and be gone on their missions to assassinate people.
Brad,
So
it would have been great if she would have said, "You know how difficult the computer business is."
is it now?
Aha!
From The
Birdemic?
Room.
Oh, The Room.
Yeah, The Room. It was a line like that from The Room. What if? Oh, I just thought of a great remake. What if they made The Room as if they are both government assassins? That would be a movie. There's a show. That's a show.
Be hard to do that all in
Anyway.
that one little apartment.
Anyway, I digress.
You
Gifford
just
has not
got
seen The
here.
Room yet, but you can imagine how good it would be. Anyway, go on, Gifford.
So they get married, and now they kind of flash forward to more present time, and you see them in their day-to-day lives. It's very mundane, same kind of conversations that any couple would have. They really just don't really care for each other. You can tell that they just don't get along. They've slipped into a bit of a slump. They argue about the curtains that she picked out, and he wants her to take them back. Just, the same old stuff. And in this on this evening, they both have to go out to do different jobs. And this is where you kind of see the difference in how they do things. She is much more meticulous, plans things out. He's more kind of seat of your pants. So he has to go kill a guy in a bar. So his whole approach is to act drunk to get into this card game with these guys until his target shows up. And she has
What
to
I
go.
thought about
Oh, go ahead.
on that scene, I thought, because I had just watched, we as a family just watched Ocean's 11 a couple of weeks ago. It's very similar. The poker scenes are very similar. This is a poker scene, and it's kind of the lighting is kind of the same, and Brad Pitt is in on the game. Early on in Ocean's 11, I think it was when we were first introduced to Brad Pitt in Ocean's 11, when George Clooney comes to find him. And it was just sort of the same kind of environment.
Yeah, he's teaching
kind of that basement poker game. Yeah,
he's teaching young stars, like movie stars, how to play poker. That's what his job was at the beginning of that. Interesting enough, Pete, Brad Pitt had to leave this shoot for like 3 months to shoot Ocean's 12.
Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
That's right.
Yeah. So it's a fun scene with him playing cards. He's drunk. He's having a lot of fun with these guys at the table. Just screwing around. Very jovial, and free flowing until his target shows up, and then he quickly dispatches of his target and the other men in the room,
whose name was Lucky, by the way.
Yes. On the other hand, she goes to a hotel and acts as a dominatrix.
Correct.
For to get into the room with this target that she has, this guy that she's supposed to kill. I like the outfit again.
I thought
I didn't notice a thing
of this scene is her escape, where she shoots the it's totally like right out of Batman. It's like she has Batman's toys, and that's how she gets out of there.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah, she's got a purse that's made of basically like bungee cord with 2 handles on it, and she hooks one handle around like a light fixture and jumps off the end of the building holding onto the other end. And of course, it's the perfect length when she gets to the bottom. Again, this is all her planning and, her way of getting, out of the situation after killing the guy. And she just ends up right on the sidewalk and gets a cab, and she's gone, before anybody can figure out what is exactly going on. So definitely shows the two different ways of doing things, which I absolutely loved.
What is the name of the neighbors that they need to go see? You have that down?
I didn't write that down.
Okay.
I didn't write it down either.
And I don't know if they were supposed to be a joke or not, but they just did all this stuff. And when they go to that party, she's still wearing these really fancy fishnets underneath her dress. But nobody's really looking at her like she's weird. So I don't know if that's supposed to be funny. But it stood out to me like she didn't have time to like completely.
Yeah, she didn't have time to get out of her assassin's outfit into her, casual party dress. For that. But again, you see here how John is much more personable with the neighbors. He gets along with all the guys. He's good with the small talk. And when she's with the other wives, she's very uncomfortable. They have, the other wives have children. She's asked to hold a baby. She doesn't feel right. Like she's much more robotic, I would say, and emotionally detached throughout this movie, whereas Brad Pitt seems to be more like Eddie's one of his good friends.
It's more loosey-goosey about
more
the whole
loosey-goosey
thing.
with
You can tell. That's why, to your point earlier, I think she was right about how long they've been married, and and some of the other comments that you made. She's the one that is more, determined. I guess.
I'm currently watching old SNLs from the late '80s.
Yep.
And I've gotten 2 parts where they've had the anal retentive chef on and the anal retentive sportsman. She's kind of like him, where everything. I mean, she's just everything's got to be just right, and she knows exactly how to do it, and and so that's her personality.
Well, and we see that again the next morning when they're at home, and he just goes out to the garage, and he's just got a kind of a basement under the garage with all of his weapons and guns and cash and everything like that. And inside the house, like she pushes a couple buttons on the stove, and this thing pops up, and she's got knives and guns, and it's way more high tech the way she stores her stuff and where she hides it. He's just got a lock underneath a rug in the garage, and he's just got all his stuff down there.
So I do have a question about all this. You bringing up all this stuff and how they've all started, and you brought up their like competing assassins. I mean, this seems like the government's involved. I mean, is this really a thing that there are competing assassin companies?
Brad, I think you should stop talking right now. He didn't mean that. Just for those listening out there, no, there are not competing private assassin firms.
Well,
I took it as they were private firms that would knock things. I don't know if it's government.
We do know of Blackwater.
That's
the most famous. Blackwater is a government contractor that does a lot of the stuff that the military does overseas. I don't know about assassins, but that's an example of how that works, where they'll hire them and they'll pay them way more than they'll pay their own military. And one of the reasons for it is because when those guys are killed and wounded, they don't go against our numbers.
It's not an official government.
It's not an official government.
Pete's always got some information.
Yep.
That's what I've heard. So that's why presidents will like to hire Blackwater.
Pete's probably an assassin.
Pete's middle name is Smith, by the way.
If I were from
Peterson,
Control,
that is a pretty standard name.
It's pretty standard,
like
really.
John Smith. I was just
this is Pete. Pete claims he goes on vacations.
Yeah, that's it right there.
But really, Pete is traveling around the country, knocking people off,
coming together.
Do you have any idea how terrible
in the CIA or something?
Right? Yep. And he's in computers. He does stuff with computers, right? I mean, come on.
Jenny and I are just like Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie.
Well, and Jenny is very organized. She is much like her.
See, I would have went more True Lies with you two. Because you look like Schwarzenegger.
Oh, thank you.
So I was just going to go that route.
I'll take either one. If you say I look like Schwarzenegger or Brad Pitt,
All
Yeah.
right.
either one.
I've
is
known
fine.
Pete for 40 years. I'm going to do some research after this episode.
Yeah, my interest is peaked here too. He is gone a lot.
There
On
has
just
to be
these
a reason for all the
vacations.
travel.
Right.
It could be. Yeah.
So again, with the differences, they go to their offices, and John's is just like out on a pier somewhere in like a kind of a rundown construction office. He's got some tech in there, which is kind of cool, where he pulls a switch and all the metal shutters closed, and he's got the computer to contact his boss. One thing I found interesting here in his office in the corner, there is a black suit with a red tie hanging up in the corner, and that is the outfit that they wear in the Hitman series and the Hitman video game and movies. So
Really?
I thought that was a bit of a nod to Hitman. Whereas she goes to her office and it's like she gets the full body scan coming in, and she's got all these people working there, high tech computers, and all this really cool stuff at the office. Is way more high tech.
Another person in the cast, too, that you haven't brought up, very young Kerry Washington.
Yes. Yep.
Who I had no idea was in this.
Mm-hmm.
And then Adam
Also,
Brody, too, who was big from the OC at the time.
Yep.
And so a couple of younger people making some pretty early on appearances.
And also
Kerry
from
Washington, also easy on the eyes.
Yes. Also from How I Met Your Mother, Jennifer Morrison.
Oh yeah, you barely really can recognize.
Yeah.
But the one of the girls I noticed that too.
Yep.
I didn't pick up on that one.
She was in How I Met Your Mother in some later seasons.
Yeah, I know her.
So they get put on, unbeknownst to them, they get put on the same hit. They have to take out Adam Brody's character called the Tank, which they both find funny because he's this skinny kid.
Scrawny, yeah.
Yep. So they're told that he is an informant, correct? And they need to knock him out before some exchange is made. So we see this scene where they're set up in the desert. She's there. She's got all the high tech, perimeter stuff and these cool binoculars and everything like that. And she's got it all planned out. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, this dune buggy comes flying across the desert with poisons. Nothing but a good time going.
That was awesome.
Oh, it's so great. And it's just Brad Pitt. He's, acting like he's just a guy out, with his dune buggy. And he ends up getting to the site like right before this caravan gets there with his target, which is a great scene. So she sees him coming, of course. She can't identify him. And he pulls a bazooka out of his dune buggy to use to blow up the truck that Adam Brody's character is in. Pete, I thought you'd like his line here. Do you remember what line he used when he pulled out the bazooka?
No.
Let's see if we can get a tune out of this trombone.
Trombone.
Yes, refer back to our Taylor Swift episode for more.
Yes, we have a Taylor Swift episode. Go listen to it.
We sure do.
Yes.
So as soon as she sees that there's another assassin on site, she goes to shoot him, hits him, in the chest and knocks him down. He's got a bulletproof vest on, of course. And then everything goes haywire, and the Adam Brody's character doesn't get killed, and he ends up shooting the bazooka at her, thinking that he's going to kill that person, and he realizes that she gets away or whatever. So now they're on the lookout for who this other assassin is.
And we don't find out till later, but I don't think it's to say that we find out later they were actually set up to kill each other.
That is correct.
Not that Adam Brody was just a bait, and whoever they wanted those two both gone, and they were going to get rid of them both, and it didn't work out.
But of course,
they don't know that until much later.
Correct. So the interesting part is, so John goes through the rubble of where she was set up, and of course, there's a computer there, and he's able to identify where that computer chip was sent, and it was sent to her office with the help of Michelle Monaghan here. She's got a small cameo in the film. So that was kind of interesting when he figures that out. He figured it out first, which I thought was weird. And so he calls his wife to see what time dinner is.
Right around
the same time. They both kind of figure it out at the same time.
They're both.
We're shown that he figures it out first, but it's like these two events.
But when he gets home for dinner, they both know, right?
Right, but do you think she would have figured it out because she's looking at a video of him taking a whiz or whatever before, she had video of him out on the site. She figures it out when the phone rings and one of the ladies off screen says, "Jane, it's your husband," on the phone, and she's looking at it, and then it dawns on her like, holy crap, the guy.
Because the picture of him is on the screen, and then and then it clicks because she says it's your husband.
Right. So the two,
double entendre there.
Yes, she figures it out because she couldn't make him out based on his, he was wearing goggles and a stupid hat and whatever else. So now they head home, and she cooks dinner every night, and he walks in very suspicious.
Although she doesn't.
Right. We find that out. We find that out too. So there's all of this very high tension going on. He thinks that she's going to poison him with his martini that he's drinking.
It's a little cat and mouse game going on.
Very, very, he makes
There's
sure
constant sounds that she's with a knife too.
Yes.
I think both of them as they're eating, and it's just creating the tension.
Yep.
Well, and even during this, where they're like, I just wrote down, they're so cute together. You just smile through the scene, even though they're
exactly. Well, it's a great scene.
About to kill each other.
She makes pot roast, and she's going to cut the pot roast, and he jumps up to, do it for her so that she doesn't have a knife. And then she pulls another knife out from underneath her apron to cut the bread. I just thought that was great. Like, she's got every angle figured. And finally it comes to pass where did he drop a wine bottle, and she miraculously catches it. And that was kind of the tipping point to where, okay, I know that you're the other one, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, because she's got these quick reflexes, which, by the way, earlier on, when they go to a shooting gallery, she's acting like that she's a klutz and doesn't know how to use a gun at all. But then he does his and does well, and then she does well. So should have been obvious that it was a game at first, but it wasn't. So just have fun with it.
So they both take off to find a weapon. They're under the guise that they're going to clean up the wine that just spilled. So I love the scene where she finally takes off, gets in the car, and hustles out of there. And he comes running out of the house, chasing after her. He wants to talk, but he falls through the fence, the picket fence, and his gun goes off, and it shoots right through the windshield, right where her head would be. And that scene was actually improvised by Pitt, but it's just such a great scene because he gets up and he realizes what he did, and he's completely apologetic, and he just goes, no, accident. And of course she's not buying it.
She tries to run him over, and he jumps on the car and is trying to talk to her through the sunroof, and he busts through the window into the car, and she jumps out, and the car goes off the road, and he's looking out the window at her like, we need to talk, and the car, that's just great. So I enjoyed that quite a bit.
That was a great scene. That whole thing was great.
Right. Where, they're right on that edge of wanting to, knock the other one off, but at the same time, they have a relationship, and, they don't really want to kill each other. So, now they go to their respective, he goes to Eddie's place. Now that everything is out in the open, she goes to her office to recover, and they kind of regroup. I did like the scene at Eddie's where he takes a gun from Eddie's, and he goes, I'm going to borrow this. And he walks out, and then he goes, "I like where your head's at." So they both head back to the house. I like that the next day he heads back to the house, but first he goes to get his neighbor to kind of use him as a human shield.
As a human shield, yes, exactly.
Because he doesn't want to walk in. He figures, well, if the neighbor's along, she won't kill him. But she's been there already and stole all of his weapons, which he is not very happy with. He goes and checks, and everything's gone. So now he shows up at her office.
Is it at the house or here? I can't remember what they're looking for, but something about a button, and she had a good line that you couldn't find the button with both hands and a map.
Right.
Was that at the house?
No,
this was when he's trapped in the elevator. Right? He's trapped in the elevator at the time.
No, that was after
I have my notes before she thinks she kills him in the elevator. So I don't know. He
goes to her office to break in. He gives her a call, and of course this high-tech security system they have at the office with all the scanning, so they figure out where he's at. But he's able to break through all the defenses and comes down, and it's just awesome seeing the escape from the office with the grapple guns. I thought that was really cool how everything's set up, and the windows blow out in the office and they shoot across like the street into another building, and all the women fly across the street on these grapple guns. That was really cool. So then they go to that other office. He figures out where they moved offices to. That's when he's trapped in the elevator. Is that what you were talking about with the couldn't find the okay. So the elevator scene is actually kind of an important scene. He goes to her new office and they trap him in the elevator, and she says that she'll let him go, but he needs to leave town. Otherwise she's going to, blow the charges on the elevator and he's going to fall to his death. And so she does a countdown, 3, 2, 1. And one of her associates hits the button to blow the charges and drop the elevator. And the shock on her face, like she's, saddened that he's actually gone. This is the first time
she didn't think that would actually happen.
Right.
But she was threatening. She was bluffing, but her friend didn't realize it.
Right.
Is kind of what I gathered. And her friend deployed the bomb.
Right. So we come to find out that Brad Pitt is in a different elevator. He jerry-rigged the camera or whatever, so it made it look like he was in that one. So now he actually believes that, okay, she's serious. She would actually kill him. So I thought that was kind of a pivotal scene there. She goes to dinner that night by herself.
Thinking he's dead.
She's sad. And he shows up, of course. And they have this excellent scene where they dance, and that was a direct
dancing and weapon removal.
Yes, that tango scene is kind of an homage to True Lies.
Yes.
But the sexy weapon removal was great, where she goes down to get his. Well, she goes down, and he looks over directly into the camera and like smiles and nods.
Like winks.
And they show that he's actually looking at another guy on the dance floor at the time, but she actually goes down to take the gun out of his ankle holster or whatever. But I thought that was a great scene where he looks directly into the camera and nods and winks.
And then was it on the dance floor, or it's during their fight at home? She has another line where she says, "Happy endings are just stories that haven't finished yet."
Mm-hmm.
I think that's on the dance. I think
it was during this part here, somewhere right here.
Yep. So she goes off acting like she's crying to get away from him, and is able to escape. And she had put in a bomb in his jacket.
Oh, yeah.
Which was interesting. So when he finally gets out, somebody happens to notice that he's ticking. So he, throws the jacket into the nearby mailbox and it explodes. And they both take off for home. And they talk on the phone. And I thought one of the great lines there was he goes to her on the phone, "That's the second time you've tried to kill me." And her response is, "Oh, come on, it was just a little bomb." So they
Back
both,
up a second, though,
yes,
because Brad brought up the line that she said, "Happy endings are just stories that haven't finished yet." That speaks to kind of her character. That was an important line, I thought. It speaks to kind of her character, because what was of that she really doesn't believe in true love. Where
mhm,
this is like how what this whole movie being about. Like I think that he is in love with her,
yes,
but she really isn't. She married him just for the cover,
yeah.
is kind of what I gathered on that. And so that's where it was kind of telling, where she was actually crying
I don't
when
know.
she thought that he died. I thought
Yeah,
there was a little deeper meaning there.
I think she loved him, but I think that line is more like at this point there's no way out. Like it's
sure.
got to
Yeah,
she's gonna
maybe.
have no choice. That's the only way it can end, and that's what I
Well,
thought she meant.
and this conversation, so I should be clear. They're talking on the phone as they're driving in separate cars to get back to their house, where they're gonna, fight it out. And he does, like Pete said, he tells her that he loved her, and that there was a real connection there. And she, I think, lies to him and herself. And she's pretty broken up about what she said, as far as it was just, I think, cold hard math, as far as the way that she looked at their relationship.
Yeah,
And I
yeah,
think she is more emotionally less adjusted, and I think that's also why she's the better of the two killers. I think that's why she's the better assassin, because
right,
she is
right.
just like a machine.
Does
um
not let emotion
Robotic,
get in the
like you
way.
said.
right, right.
I got a question. When they
Yeah,
get home here, there's a lot of shooting and explosions, and it
yes,
seems like the cops would have been called or showed up at some point because it is quite the loud scene.
yes. And this
And that
this is
house
one of the
is that's destroyed about as bad as the squirrel in Christmas Vacation.
yes, yes. So this is a phenomenal scene, where they start with a little bit of light gunplay. He's got, I think, pistols, but she's like armed to the teeth with, automatic weapons and a shotgun. And again, great scene, cat and mouse sneaking around their own house trying to kill each other. And then it gets stepped up quite a bit when um, they lose their weapons and they get into hand-to-hand combat to a great song, "Express Yourself."
Yep.
And this scene is so great. And it shows, even physically, hand-to-hand, she's every bit up to the task.
There's a lot of good use of music here in the rest of the
Mhm.
movie.
Yep. Yes, there
Yes.
is. During this scene, there's a part during the fight scene that I love, where she falls down behind the couch and you can't see her, and he's standing above her kicking. So you're assuming he's kicking her right in the stomach or whatever. But it's just funny how he's like, it's not like quick kicks. He's like taking his time and really swinging into it, and then all of a sudden her foot comes up right into his crotch, and she kicks him in the nuts, and he falls over, and they continue on with the fighting. Um, so they end up each getting a gun again. They're pointing it at each other, ready to blow each other's heads off. And John drops his first. Um, and then we get into a rather steamy
Well,
sex
he
scene.
can't kill her, and then
Right.
that's where she realizes she can't kill him either after
Mhm.
that. So instead, they take their clothes off.
Yeah,
Is the
I wrote down that it looks like "we almost killed each other" sex is pretty hot. Like, that's ultimate makeup sex that they have in this scene, correct? I think
yeah,
Yep. Now they're
that's
back, baby.
yep,
it's like
that's
Back
they
to
needed
Bogota.
spice. They needed
yes.
spice in their relationship, and that's exactly what this was.
Well, and even during the sex scene, there's a part where they kind of fall to the floor, and there's a slight pause, and she looks over at him and hits him in the face, and then jumps right back on him, and they keep going at it. So I mean, there's even violence in their lovemaking, like Pete said. I mean,
Yeah.
it was pretty good.
And then another song here. They drink some OJ out of some broken glasses to "Lay
Mhm.
Lady Lay," Pete's
Yes.
favorite Bob Dylan song.
Hmm.
That's correct, and it
Hear more
reminded
about
me of
that
a
on our
time
Minnesota
where
music episode.
it was a very critical song for me to win that episode.
That was a big one for
That,
you.
but that was not the original Bob Dylan version of it. It was performed by Magnet featuring Gemma Hayes. I looked it up.
Oh.
Who actually performed this version of it that was in the movie?
Okay.
Magnet featuring Gemma Hayes. I'd never heard of either, but still, it sounded good. It was a good version of it.
Should
So
we
not
move
only
on?
did they have sex again, but now what did they find out there, Giff?
That there's an assault on their house is the next part I was going to move to.
Oh, why? They're the targets now, plural.
Yes.
Both of them.
Yes.
Like it
Yeah.
all, they got it now. It's
Yep.
Well,
So
the funny scene here, before we get too far ahead, the funny moment was where after they were having all this violence and all this sex and all this violent sex, was that because you said earlier the cops would be called and everything like that. All the neighbors show up at the door.
oh yeah, they do show up.
with the like
To
the private
check on 'em.
neighborhood security guy,
We-
not
we
even the
heard-
real police.
Yeah, we heard a lot of noise. We wanted to make sure everything was okay, and they had clearly just been having sex.
Right.
And they're like, "Oh wow!"
Yeah.
Which
It's like
apparently
the
can
whole
sound
house
like
is
machine
destroyed.
guns and kitchen explosions.
Right. There's holes in the wall, from
Right.
gunshots and everything. But yeah, they come to the door and she's like wrapped in a sheet and he's got his tie wrapped around his wrist, which I thought was great. So yeah, the next morning they're, having a nice moment. And they start getting shot at. And I thought this was a great scene where they're using the military hand motions, to say go over here, go over there. And they even fight doing that, which I thought was funny. They fight using military, tactical hand motions, which was great. Of course, the house explodes on them due to a bomb that was sent in.
Literally
And-
blows up.
By the way, the big tank just says gas.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you notice that?
Yes. Oh, and did you know that this house is the front of the house is the same one from Father of the Bride?
Oh,
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
I can
Yep.
see that.
Yep.
Huh.
I
So-
like when they get out of there, he backs over the assassin, takes
Yeah.
his gun, but then he kicks him.
Yeah.
That's
And
after he runs him over. He kicks
And
him.
what does he say to her when he gets in the van?
I don't remember.
Fuckers get younger every year. So they head over to the neighbors to steal their minivan, and this leads into, in my opinion, the greatest scene in the entire movie.
Air
Is
supply.
this car chase scene, two air supplies making love out of nothing at all. It starts out with them getting to know each other again and all the lies that they've told each other through the years. So I wrote some of these down. So hers were that she was never in the Peace Corps, and he really liked that about her. She never cooked. The iTemp girls, the company that she worked for, always came over and made dinner every night. She's an orphan, to which he says, so he finds out that there were actors at their wedding, and he goes, "I told you I saw your dad on Fantasy Island."
Yeah,
And she's like, "Yeah,
I
I
love
know."
that line. Yes,
Right?
yes.
She's also Jewish. He never went to MIT. He has a art history degree from Notre Dame. And he's been married before. And of course, when he tells her this, they are in a chase scene. There's 3 cars with bad guys shooting at them going down the freeway. But she takes the time to stomp on the brakes so he flies to the front of the vehicle so that she can hit him, because she was never told that he'd been married before. So I thought that was great.
And then she goes, "What's your name and social security number?" And he goes, "No, you're not going to kill her."
No, you're not going to kill her. So the great thing about this scene is the use of the automatic doors in the minivan. So he pushes a button, the back door comes up, and he's shooting at the guys in the car. There's some golf clubs in the back. He uses the golf club to whack a guy in the head that's coming out of the sunroof in this car. There's a part where a guy pulls up next to him and he jumps out of the car to go into the van, and he uses the sliding doors on each side to open it up and basically just throw the guy out comes in one side, he goes right out the other. And I love his line where he goes, "These doors are handy."
That's a good one. That's like when my wife finally came around on minivans.
Right.
Realized how practical they were.
So again, we see at the end of this scene how much better Jane is at, I think, just about everything. Where she's driving the van, he's trying to get the cars off of them, shooting them, and she spins the van around and is able to disable the last two cars, and they go flying and blow up, and then she just spins the van right back around again, and they just keep going right down the highway. I mean, it was just such a killer move on her part. And then of course, now the action's over, but Air Supply is still playing on the radio as they meander down the interstate. But that scene to me has so many great things with them reconnecting, and very good action in a car chase scene. Anything to add to that?
No, I'm excited to get to
well.
There was two like seeming references to movies coming up here that I liked.
Yes, there is. So they are told now that by Eddie that their two companies are going to come after them and they're going to kill them. And
So
they
this is Vince Vaughn at the diner?
Yes.
Yeah, this is one of them because he doesn't like his diner food. And it's just like in Swingers where he wants to send back his food. I would never eat here anyway.
Right.
That's got to be, they got to do that on purpose.
So I found something where that diner was used in Gone in 60 Seconds, which Angelina Jolie is in. And it was also used on another movie that Brad Pitt was in, and I can't recall off the top of my head. But that diner was used. But anyway,
I liked Vince Vaughn's reaction to his food.
Yes. Also, his reaction to her, because he shows up in Vince's booth, and he basically goes, "So you killed the bitch," and then she's just sitting right there. And the looks that he gives her, like you could just tell how much he hates her. But anyway, he tells them that they either need to split up or they need to give their companies something that they want more than them. So that's where Adam Brody's character comes back into play. They need to break into a government facility to get him out, which again doesn't make any sense to me. But they go to break into this facility, and this scene, there's a scene before Brad Pitt heads in to grab this guy, where they discuss how many people they've killed, which of course is a direct, the same conversation as, when a couple has the conversation of how many people you've had sex with. And here we find out that, Brad Pitt, he goes, I'll go first. He makes some comment about how he's been doing this a long time, and he's pretty proud of himself when he says, like, I don't keep track, but high 50s, low 60s. And Angelina comes right back with 312. And he's so hurt and by that number that it's so much higher than his. And I love her line where she goes, "Well, some of them were 2 at a time." So that was a great conversation. So they're able to break the tank out of this facility.
And he's wearing a Fight Club shirt.
That's
the other one.
Oh, I didn't catch that.
That was the other one I wanted to bring up. And of course, he again is just bait. He's got a whole.
At this point, they still didn't know that they were supposed to kill each other, so that's why they thought he was valuable. And now they finally find out he's not even worth anything.
Right. He's just a low-level guy.
Now what the hell are they going to do?
Right. So they got him at this motel, and the agency assassins show up again, and they're able to escape. And they end up in this store, and I love the name of this store. You guys remember the name of the store that they're in?
I just said it was a home store. I didn't see the name of it.
The name of the store is Homemade or Home Aid, and either one works for a home store or home improvement store. If you need aid for
All
your
right.
home or it's
Yeah.
homemade. So I like the name of the store they're in. This is the final scene in the movie, the big fight scene at the end. Lots of guns. There's
Yeah, all I wrote down here
Through a
is
hardware store,
lots of
like you said, it's like a
bullets.
Home Depot, basically.
so there's
you got
knives,
everything to
there's
work with.
pipe wrenches being used.
Yes.
There's a nice homage to Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid here, where they're in that little shed, kind of getting themselves together before they go out one last time to take out the rest of the people, the rest of the assassins that are after them. But another big shoot 'em up action scene at the end of the movie here. And then I think to close, they are back at the counselor's office, correct?
Ask us a sex question.
Yes. So the counselor's talking like, how are things going? Good to see you guys are back. And they're just sitting there, and Pitt interrupts him and says, ask the sex question again. And all he does is hold up 10 fingers.
Right.
So I don't know if like their sex life is a 10 or they've done it 10 times, but that was
Well, it would be both. If it's 10
yes.
times a week, that's pretty good.
That'd be
I'd
pretty
give
good.
that a 10.
So I like that ending. It's cute and it
Yep.
bookends with the beginning, but it doesn't. I mean, they killed all those people.
Yes.
But wouldn't these companies still be? I thought, okay, they got out of there, but wouldn't they have to leave the
Wouldn't they
country?
have to keep coming. Yeah.
How on earth could they still be living their life now? More people are going to come
Don't
after.
overthink it, Brad.
Right.
You're
I
taking
don't think
all
that's
of the fun
overthinking
out
it.
of
I
it.
think that is a very valid question. Like you could
I
put them
actually
on a
thought about
beach or
that too.
something. Like
So-
Milton in Office Space.
The one thing I did find, which I thought was low, the body count for this movie was only 43. Doesn't that seem a bit low when you consider that final scene
don't
and the
keep
car chase scene and the scene at their house when their house explodes? I just thought there'd be a lot more than
There's just a lot of explosions and a lot of bullets.
yes. Yeah. Very good movie. I really enjoy it. I like the action. I like the humor. And I like that they made her to be the better assassin. I think that was a nice way to go. Like Pete said, that's the difference between this one and True Lies. But
yeah, I used the word cute twice already, and I think that's not maybe the first word that would come to your mind, but it's a cute movie.
Mhm.
And that's why I like it, because it's fun and you don't take it seriously and you don't think too much, but that doesn't mean you still don't think. And
Right.
that's my big question at the end there. Like you think, okay, so they're gonna live happly ever after. Like they gotta leave the country though.
Well, yeah, there was
That's
talk
all.
about
They could go
she's got a
down to
boat in La
Bogota.
Paz. That
Yeah.
was her getaway. Like, yeah. So maybe they had already paid for the sessions and they just jetted back into town quick to
Yeah,
to not
maybe
waste.
that's true. Maybe they aren't living there. They just had to go back just so he could answer that question.
Right.
'Cause I can
I
see
want
that.
to go back and tell the guy how good her sex life is now. So
Anyway, how is your sex life?
exactly. So to wrap this one up, Brad had the great idea for us to put together our top 5 movies that contained couples. So
Real life couples.
Real life couples.
we're going to be
Lot of
kind of
movies
loose
contain
on this
couples.
because like this movie, for example, they weren't technically together when they made this movie, but this was kind of the movie that got them together
I
in
thought
real
they
life.
were, and this was the movie that just like announced it, like to the. I don't know. I guess
I thought
This-
this
seems to
is
be
where they
like-
got together.
Like
Well,
when I
he
remember
was still
seeing this
married to
movie-
Jennifer Aniston at the time.
Yeah.
Well, maybe it's so the movie obviously was filmed before, but because I feel like when we saw this movie in the theater, like you knew they were a couple.
Well,
But so
it's-
maybe between the time when they filmed it and that's when all
Yeah.
the publicity came out until
maybe
it
that's
actually
what it was.
in the
Yep.
theater.
So we're going to be pretty loose on this. It's not like you need to be an actual like for sure we're going out or married.
The
But,
auditors are not going to come after
yes.
us.
So who would like to go first on this one?
Well, I got a few here. Like
Okay.
I said, I got a list. The first one actually that came to my mind was Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman in Eyes Wide Shut. That was a good one. A couple of other ones I had found as I was just doing the research. Well, there's Johnny Depp and Winona Ryder were going out at the time of Edward Scissorhands.
Didn't have that one.
If you want to go way back, you could go Humphrey Bogart and Lauren Bacall in a movie called The Big Sleep in 1946. But normally I wouldn't care. But Humphrey Bogart is one of the biggest names there was at the time.
Chops and applesauce.
Bridesmaids, remember that movie with Melissa McCarthy and Ben Falcone?
Yeah, I didn't realize that till I looked this up, and that was because those two are funny, and that was a funny scene where he's on the airplane there. That's a really memorable one.
Yep.
The other one
they've
actually
been in quite a few things together.
Yeah, but I did not realize until I looked this up that they were a couple, so that made it even better looking back.
The other one that actually stood out in my head as soon as you mentioned this concept, Brad, was Goldie Hawn and Kurt Russell were in a few movies together, but most notably Overboard. I don't know if that's where they got their start together or if they were already going out at the time or what. But so that was a few that came to my mind. Will Smith and Jada, who I have seen in person, both at the same time. For the movie Ali.
Did you keep
her name out of your mouth?
I didn't. I didn't say anything. I just kind of peeked into the meeting window. They were at the old corporate office that I used to work at, and I did see them. But he didn't come up and punch me or anything like that. So that was good.
You're lucky. Well, that's because you look like Arnold Schwarzenegger. I wouldn't punch you either.
That's right. You know that you're the first one that's ever said that. I can't believe that.
And
more people haven't noticed. More people haven't noticed that about me before.
And the last.
Are you done,
All
Pete?
right, I'm done. I'll turn it over to you, Brad.
Okay. So you mentioned Bridesmaids and Overboard. I had those as honorable mentions. One that I didn't expect to write down, but I mentioned way back when we did Kevin Smith. You can go back and listen to Clerks. We did that during our very early on here. I mentioned that the movie Jersey Girl wasn't bad, and it has Ben Affleck and Jennifer Lopez in it.
Yep.
And so I put that as an honorable mention. Mr. and Mrs. Smith I put down. And then my other honorable mention is not a movie, but I wanted to include it because they are one of the funniest, most awesome couples. So on one of our favorite shows here, Parks and Rec, Ron Swanson and his wife Tammy.
Yep.
Nick Offerman and God, I'm drawing a blank now on their names. What's her name?
She's from.
Geez, I'll look it up.
I got you. But anyway, they are a real life couple, and they played those two parts unbelievably well. And so it's not a
one
movie
from Will and Grace.
Yes, that's what I'm looking up.
Memorable. Here's my top 5. So most of these you did not mention, Pete. Actually, only one. Scream, I got down. Courtney Cox and David Arquette, who I think in the first one, that's where they kind of started to get, but then they were together for subsequent movies, and I like all. I love Ben Stiller and his wife, Christine Taylor. She's always been one of my crushes, and they were in Zoolander.
Yep.
And I love that movie. I did have Eyes Wide Shut at number 3 because I love that movie too. And then my top 2, I'm surprised maybe didn't mention A Quiet Place with John Krasinski and Emily Blunt. Both movies are great and they are wonderful together. And then Gifford, before I even had time to think about this, you gave me my number 1 and remembered obviously my number 1 is LA Story with Steve Martin and Victoria Tennant, who are no longer together, but were at the time. And that is my favorite movie of all time. So clearly it is my favorite movie with real life couples of all time. And you can go back and listen to our episode on that from this February.
Excellent. Megan Mullally.
Megan Mullally. There you go.
Yes.
Nick Offerman.
Yes.
God, they're good.
That is a wonderful list.
They're about as perfect of a pairing as Danny DeVito and Rhea Perlman. We just look at these two like, they belong together.
That is exactly right. I've got a couple honorable mentions that weren't said yet. Days of Thunder is where Cruise and Kidman actually got together.
Oh,
I love that. That's a good movie. I watched that not too long ago again. I Know What You Did Last Summer with Freddie Prinze Jr. and Sarah Michelle Gellar.
Oh, yeah.
Wasn't all bad. Bohemian Rhapsody with Remy Malek and Lucy Boynton.
Yeah, I thought about that one. I
Um,
saw it. It was a good movie, so it's almost made my honorable mention.
Very good. And then, of course, like Brad said, A Quiet Places. I had that down as my number 5, but I remembered another one, so I moved it down to my 6. So my number 5 is Bridesmaids with McCarthy and Ben Falcone. My number 4, Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. Kevin Smith and his wife Jennifer, who played Missy in that movie.
Oh, really?
Yep.
I missed that one.
That was the one that I forgot to put in, so I put that at number 4.
I love that movie.
Number 3, Cruel Intentions with Ryan Phillippe and Reese Witherspoon.
Yeah, we know I love her, but that movie's not. I don't
really?
care that much.
Love that movie.
I actually never liked him either. So,
to me, he was one of the best parts of that movie. My number 2 is Mr. and Mrs. Smith with Pitt and Angelina Jolie.
Oh, only number 2.
And my number 1 also includes Ben Stiller and Kristen Taylor, but it's
Really?
Dodgeball.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, so we both had them.
Yep.
Well, I didn't even think about that one. That's a good one too. But I still think I like their relationship in Zoolander. I think that's a little bit more for me. But Dodgeball's good too.
I like their relationship in Dodgeball when he said we should mate, and she throws up in her mouth. So I think that's gonna wrap it up for this episode.
Before we close out the show, looking at my notes, there's actually a couple of comments about the movie, a couple of fun facts that I do want to mention. Did you come across at all others that were planned for the movie, Mr. and Mrs. Smith? Other actors?
I had, but I didn't write anybody down.
Okay, well, I had Gwyneth Paltrow, who actually.
Which would have been like, well, 7 was another one. Brad Pitt and Gwyneth Paltrow.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
But she wanted it. She only wanted to be in it if Brad Pitt was in it. But then it looked like that Brad Pitt was going to drop out or have to drop out. And then so she dropped out. And then by the time they got everything rescheduled with Brad Pitt, then she had another commitment or something like that. So it would have been Gwyneth Paltrow. Nicole Kidman also was one of the ones considered. Will Smith, Catherine Zeta-Jones, Johnny Depp, and Kate Blanchett. And one final comment, I did come across that it looks like they are coming out with a TV series reboot this year on Amazon Prime.
Really?
Of Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
Do you have any idea?
Well,
do you have any idea who's starring in it?
Donald Glover and Maya Erskine. Don't know how that's
I'm not
pronounced.
Sure who that is. I'll have to look that up.
I know
Donald Glover, we know.
Oh yeah, Donald Glover, we know him.
But
interesting.
There you go. So
well, I'd had also that Gwen Stefani and Ava Green were considered for Mrs. Smith.
Oh really? I didn't.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I know that girl. Maya. She was in. There was a show on Hulu, or it's still on, I think, called Penis, spelled PEN15.
Okay.
And it's these 2 girls who are older, but they're playing like junior high versions of themselves. It's really kind of weird. I watched the first season. That's why I know her name.
Oh, okay.
So she's funny.
I do not recognize her. Anyway, well,
now we can wrap up the show.
I would love to hear a little Preacher Row.
Would you? Well, you're in luck because I got Preacher Row for you.
Sweet.
Before we do, there's one thing I want you to do, Gifford.
Yes.
Ask the sex question.
Excellent. It doesn't quite work without.
No, I know. You got to say it. It was funny. To the audience, you had to see it. He put up 10 fingers.
Mm-hmm.
Goodbye, everybody.
All right, Preacher Row. Bye.
We'll see ya.
come to me. No one's here to comfort me. Sorry for what I have done. Sorry that your son is gone. 7 steps and it will be my last. And start to me on my back. I turn and I look to you. I'm scared but there's nothing I can do.